Hello, my friends. Welcome to the Artist Next Level podcast. Super excited today because with me, I have a special guest, which is none other than Linda Anderson, who is my guest today. We're going to be talking about the fabulous show that she's part of with her daughter, Women Artists of the DMV, Daughter of the Stars. And it's going to be a great chat. You don't want to go anywhere because we're going to have a great conversation.
Resources, inspiring interviews, business practices, and practical advice to take your art career to the next level. Join Sergio Gomez in today's Artist Next Level and get ready to take control of your career.
So, hi, Linda. Good to see you. How are you?
I'm doing well. How about you?
I am doing great. Thank you for joining us today here for the Artist Next Level podcast. We want to have a great conversation about your career, your art. Also, you're a mother of artists as well, which I would love to
Yes.
find out more about how that happened. And a wonderful exhibition that you're part of is called Women Artists of the DMV, Daughter of the Stars, which is hosted by the American University Museum in over 18 satellites, different venues, and it's one of the largest exhibitions in the country. So super excited to find out about that as well. So before we kind of start diving into that, tell our friends, where are you located at?
I live in Front Royal, Virginia, in a very wooded rural landscape.
Okay, wow. You've been in the kind of like in the wood area for a long time?
Yeah, I moved here in 2010.
Oh, okay. Wonderful. And so let's start a little bit with your back end story, because we know each other from the Art Next Level program. You're one of our amazing artists who is part of our program, and we have met you through there. We have met also your daughter, Tashina, through that program. So we feel like you guys are a family. But I don't know your
Yeah.
back end story. So tell me a little bit about, where you grew up and how you decided to become an artist yourself.
I was born and grew up in Utah. Grew up in a very rural area of Utah, surrounded by, I literally would look out the windows when I was doing dishes in the morning, and there was like the Rocky Mountains, like the
Wow.
big blue formations of the Rocky Mountains. And then if I went out the front door, I could see the Ochre Mountains, where in those mountains, there's a huge open pit copper mine. So a lot of geology, a lot of minerals and natural history, and this influenced my art a lot.
Hmm.
And uh, like cultural places where there was evidence of the first inhabitants of the region, Native American tribes. So that was another thing that also influenced me from a very early age.
Hmm.
As far as when did I decide to become an artist, I actually, as far as my memories go back, very early childhood, art chose me. I I was drawing with whatever I could draw with, sheets and sheets and sheets of paper.
Hmm.
Um, and like my early elementary school teachers, kindergarten, first grade, they noticed that I was extremely creative in whatever art assignments that they gave, art exercises that they gave us. And they actually would kind of, I remember that very clearly. Like, there was one situation, I believe it was first grade, and they actually went and got other teachers to come and see what I was doing. And of course, when you're a little kid and you have adults that are like noticing you, you feel really special. And so I'm like, wow, this is a cool thing to do. And so of course I did it even more.
That's
So yeah,
awesome.
I was always an artist, and I was very fortunate that I had a lot of adult mentors who saw the talent that I had and that creativity, and they nurtured it. And I think that also is part of the story, how, I think a lot of children are born with talents and creativity. And sometimes because it's not nurtured, that they just kind of like as they grow up, they lose interest in it. But I didn't, and I was lucky in that respect.
That's great. So then, as you went to school, and let's say you finished high school, then what was the trajectory from there?
So at the time that the senior years of high school, I was actually half of my classes in my senior year were art classes. So I'd go to like 4 regular classes, 4 art classes, because I had enough credits that I could do that. So at that time, I was I was a figurative artist, and I was very interested in, which is kind of funny when I think of it now. I wanted to be a fashion designer, and so all of
Oh,
my
wow.
my I do these huge drawings of women with, and I'd create like these imaginative clothing on them. But I didn't. I only knew about the drawing and creating, like drawing out the clothing designs. I didn't realize that it was this whole other. There's all these other things involved in it,
Mm.
and given where I grew up, and I'm very, I don't know if shy is the right word, but definitely not a super outgoing person. And city life is not for me. I would never have made it in New York City or any of the big fashion industries. But
Yeah.
so I got 2 different scholarships, art scholarships, 2 different universities in Utah. And
Okay.
I went to Utah State. That's the one that I chose. And I chose it because they had a commercial illustration
Okay.
program, which again, I was, in that thinking that, I wanted to do like the fashion illustration. And I had just gotten married, and so be gotten married, then we had a child on the way, and basically I had to leave. I didn't even finish the year, unfortunately. And then my husband at the time, he joined the military. And
Okay.
so that took me on which I'm very grateful, because that just opened up a whole other world for me and changed actually my artwork. And so, I kind of let go of the illustration and the fashion illustration, and I returned back to more of the fine art. And because I was always interested in cultures, first the Native American culture, which was my primary subject matter in the my early 20s, I will say. And
Hmm.
then we moved to England, and then I became very interested in the history of the Celts. And so I did a
Oh, wow.
figurative body of work that featured like Ireland, primarily Ireland, but the Celts of the Western Isles. And then when we moved back to the States is kind of when I had a big turning point, and I transitioned from the figurative into the landscapes. And I've been painting trees ever since then.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. Well, that's quite a journey. Then, that is pretty cool. As
Yeah.
as you started, I love how you started, as a child, recognizing that, others saw something within you, that art was something that you could do. And, you received that confirmation early on in life, which was really helpful to kind of like believe that you could do this. And then as you continue, in your progression as an artist, that is pretty awesome. And, it's really interesting for me to always look back at how was that first seed, how that first seed got into our mind that, I can do it, I can be an artist. For me, it was a high school teacher who said, even though as a kid, I always did art, I never knew I could actually be an artist. But it was my high school teacher who said, hey, have you
Hmm.
considered, to be like making it into a career? Like, oh, can I do that? And
Yeah.
that is fabulous, that is amazing. And something that is pretty cool too is how, and we'll talk about it in a minute, how also in your family, then I believe it's 2 of your kids are artists, correct?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
2 of my daughters.
That's amazing. So, but before we talk about that, so let's, for our friends who are listening to the podcast too, let's help them describe your art. So you said you started kind of like with the figurative type of art, and then you now kind of like with your love for nature, now you began to kind of, you got back to that, back nature kind of inspired you, the trees. So how would you describe the art that you do today?
So the my subject matter is the woodland landscape and portraits of trees, and I use the word portrait very specifically because when I focus in on a tree, it is a specific tree. And at this point, most of the trees that and the wooded landscapes that are the subject of my artwork are trees literally in the surroundings. I live on a 10-acre acreage of land where my studio is also located. And I've in the years that I've lived here, I've become very, very connected to the trees. So that's another thing, is like initially it was the beauty of the woodland landscape and the beauty of the trees, the interesting forms and how they change in the light that really captured my creative imagination. But now there's this extra layer in that I really feel like I have a deep, specific relationship with these specific trees. And so I hope that that love and that connection comes through in the way that I compose my artwork. So my paintings, my primary the primary media that I use and have always used is painting. I move back and forth between oil paint, acrylic paint. Every once in a while, I do watercolor paint. But when I was getting my BFA and then later my MFA, I I started exploring other avenues of creativity, and so I actually, during my BFA years, I changed my area of emphasis from painting to printmaking because I took my first printmaking class and it was like I was a kid again. It was like, oh, this is totally different way to
Right.
create an image. It's kind of like the opposite. And so I thoroughly explored like the four primary printmaking techniques, avenues. And then when I went to Marywood University and was working on my MFA, I discovered sculpture and ceramics, and I really got like lit on fire as far as like working dimensionally. And about halfway through working on my, because of course you have to create a body of work for your final exhibition, your thesis
Your
exhibition.
thesis. Hmm.
And I'm like I kind of got the light bulbs went on, and I'm like I want to put it all together. And so that was when I came up with, which I called then, and I still do, the Dimensional Landscape series. And so basically, I combined painting, printmaking, and then the way that rather than just painting on a flat surface, one canvas, one wood panel, I I would I would stack them out. I would configure them. Sometimes I would do kind of a diptych, but they were joined. Really playing with space and physical form, in addition to the planar image
Yeah.
that I was creating. And I really ever since then, and so now I'm still very engaged with working in that manner. I don't do the prints anymore, primarily because I don't have a printing press or access to a printing studio. But I still use that idea of like, you know, starting with a seed image and then kind of pushing that same image in different directions, or maybe showing two or three different aspects of it, and then configuring that on different canvases on a larger canvas. I hope that I'm visually describing it,
Yeah,
or verbally
I think you
describing
are.
it.
Yeah, I mean, from what I have seen, haven't had the pleasure to see the work in person, but from the photographs and the images that I have seen, from your work in or inside that next level, and that you have shared also in your socials. Yeah, I think so. I love that you were able, after your journey as an artist, you came to the point like, what, I can combine all these things, right? Why does it have to be a painting or
Hmm.
a printmaking piece or, or a sculpture? Why can I just combine them all and make my own thing, and that you have done that. And I think that is really cool. That is and it's also in a way kind of emulates nature. The very thing that you're trying to convey, you're trying to also honor through your work. When I look at nature, it's always like um, it's ingrained with one thing with the other, right? Water into the land, land into
Yeah.
the water. The different elements coexist together, and they interact with each other, and that's kind of how I see your work too. Like in a forest, the ways you say in a forest, you're like it's not there's not like a perfect path. You can go in any direction in the forest, find different things, and I think that's kind of like how I see your art now taking shape in this stage.
Yeah, and actually that is the central theme of my artwork now. The
Mhm.
theme is interconnection and ecology, and not just ecology in the way that we think of it, but also like how we fit into the creative world of nature. We are part of that. Human beings are as much a part of the creative living earth as the trees, as the animals, as the elements. And so again, the way that I'm creating the artwork, the compositions is to engage the body of the viewer as much as the senses in the body of the viewer. The artwork comes outward towards them, or it has other aspects of it that engage people to walk around it and explore it from a
Mhm.
different perspective. And again, like when we're wandering, taking a walk through the woodlands, and you are walking into the woodlands, but then the woodlands are also coming towards you, and as
Right,
you
right.
move you see all these different perspectives. So I was trying to create a way, in the way that I compose my artwork, that it would kind of encourage the viewer to move and to look at it from different perspectives, and to find
Mhm.
different aspects to it that they wouldn't if they were just standing in front of a plain, one point perspective
Mhm.
landscape. And I think that the longer that we look at something, we connect with it. We have opportunity to connect with it on a more personal level than just
Yeah,
looking at it and moving on, or looking at it as, oh, that's pretty. I
right.
want it to be pretty, but also very engaging, that people will actually feel like that they connect to it. It'll unlock their memories. It'll unlock their
Mhm.
love of nature.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And I think our friends are starting to make a picture, mental picture through the words that you are using to describe your art. And we're going to invite our friends, to also visit your website, visit your Instagram, and also in the episode notes, I have put also some pictures of Linda's art, so you guys can check it out too as well. And then create an actual image, from what we've been talking about here. Let's talk about also for you as a mom, and then seeing your kids become artists. What is that like? I have two kids. They both are artistic, but they are choosing different careers, and that's fine. They can, they still love to make art when they have like some free time and stuff. But tell me about like actually seeing your kids like, develop their own careers and as artists.
It is absolutely one of the most rewarding and awesome. It's just absolutely awesome.
Yeah.
And it's like, and people might get a chuckle out of this one.
Uh-huh.
So you know how, like, on Thanksgiving or Christmas, you go back home, and you know mom or grandma is cooking pies and cookies, and those aromas just remind you of home and when you were a kid. Well, my girls, when they visit and they smell turpentine, they say they say that reminds them of home when they smell turpentine. So they grew up like, um, their first memories are, of the smell of my, because I at that time I used regular oil paints, and so I had to use turpentine to clean my brushes. And now I use water soluble oils because they've developed those now, and it's awesome. But yeah, it's just amazing that,
That's fun.
and to see them develop their own creative voice.
Right.
We the three of us have our distinct mediums that we
Mhm.
gravitate towards. We have our distinct creative voice, and and each of my daughters, like, I one day of every week for each of them, I we spend 3 or 4 hours conversation, because neither of them live in the state that I do.
Mhm.
And oftentimes we're talking about our art, we're sharing ideas, collaborating. We we send pictures, photos back and forth, texted photos back and forth, so that we could see what each other's doing, and to get feedback and live critiques. It's just really amazing. Yeah, I feel truly blessed.
That's awesome. I love that because it has to be like very rewarding. Now, did you feel that at any point, as they are developing their careers and like you want to give them like the advice to help them mold them, into great artists, but like you also at the same time you want to let them grow themselves and find their own visual language. How did you manage that? Because that must be a little bit, like you want to have both, right? That they discover, but sometimes you want to help them out.
I really I I always gave them free reign to go the direction that they were going to go. And which is why I think they felt very comfortable. What I was seeing from my perspective was that they they wanted to walk the same path that I walked, of their own, like that was coming from them. It wasn't coming from me saying, "Oh, do it my way." Um,
Yeah.
and so it was a little frustrating for me, because they would get frustrated because they were looking at my work, and their work didn't look that way. And I had to remind them, I'm 20. Well, with my eldest daughter, there's 20 years between us. And then with the younger daughter, there's 22 years. So I would say, you have to remember that I'm 20 years further down the road than you.
Right.
When I was your age, my art looked totally different. And just, I found that I would frequently have to encourage them to not get frustrated, and
Yeah.
to not look at me and say, well, my work's not like yours, and so therefore my work's not successful. And fortunately, they did find their own way, and they're amazing, and they're successful, and I love seeing it. And that's kind of the legacy that I want to leave, is that not only am I going to leave behind my body of work that I create, but I also have contributed in producing two wonderful artists of the next generation.
Right.
And I thought is Andrew Wyeth is one of my heroes. Actually, Andrew Wyeth's Christina's World is the reason that
Mm.
when I was in third grade in Utah, it was called the Week of the Arts for the Young. And so it was a state sponsored arts program. And in the elementary schools, they would bring in guests and artists of all different kinds. And an artist or an art educator brought in like different, very large reproductions of famous masterwork artists. And one of those artworks was a reproduction of Andrew Wyeth's Christina's World.
Mm.
And I just looked at that and looked at it, and I connected with it on such a profound level that right then and there, I literally said, I'm going to be an artist, and I want to create. I was thinking, of course, the way that I thought about it was kid words.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
but the essence was that I just had this amazing emotional connection to that artwork, and I wanted to create artwork that would connect, that other people someday would connect with it in the same way that I did. and that it would inspire some young boy or some young girl sitting in a classroom who sees it and says, I want to be an artist.
Right, right.
And, and I think that, because my children grew up
Hmm.
with a mother who loved artwork to the degree that I did, and it was a part of our life as much as sitting at the breakfast table and reading books, which we did, by the way, would sit at the table and read books. Um, that that I have instilled that when they were little, they're like, I want to be an artist, just like
Right.
when I looked at Andrew Wise, Christina's World, I want to be an artist.
That's awesome. No, that's very cool. I love that. I love that. And you did it. You also inspire your own kids to follow and pursue the art career that you so much loved and you built for yourself. And now they are building their own path, following, their own vision for their art, but they have you as a kind of like a, somebody who's ahead in the road and somebody that they can trust, that they can always come to. And that is pretty fabulous. I love that. When I meet other artists whose families have decided to follow the same path, I really love it. I really admire it. So, and that leads us to the thing that I want to talk to you about too, which is this exhibition that's called Women Arts of the DMV, which is for DC, Maryland, and Virginia. And tell me about the show, and also the opportunity to exhibit along with your daughter. So
Okay.
tell me about both.
Okay. So there are actually my work is in two different exhibitions right now.
Okay.
Um, my daughter Tashina Marie is in the other exhibition, not the Women Arts
Okay.
of the DMV, because she
Okay.
actually lives in Tennessee. So she's out of the
That's
regional
right. That's right. Now
jurisdiction.
you mentioned that's correct. Yeah, I forgot about that.
So the exhibition that she and I are in together, and actually my other daughter is too. So all three of us are in that exhibition.
Oh, amazing.
Um,
Okay.
it's so Renee Phillips of Manhattan International Gallery. So she has it's called The Healing Power of Art and Nature is the exhibition. It's an international juried online exhibition.
Mhm.
So yeah, all three of our works are included in that.
That's amazing.
Actually, one other member of Art Next Level too is included in that exhibition. So that's
So
totally
good.
cool. Um, I just think that is like, again, it's like that this is the first time that I have been in an exhibition with either of my daughters, let alone both.
Hmm.
And actually my daughter Tashina Marie and we're working on doing a collaborative exhibition together that we want to do. Our big dream, you got to dream big if anything's going to
Right.
happen. So we're each of us are creating a coordinated body of work, and then we would like to find a way to exhibit it in three different states at least. We have three
Wow.
different states that like Asheville, North Carolina, and New Mexico, the Santa Fe region, and Delaware, the New York Hudson River area.
Okay.
So the other exhibition, the big exhibition that I am part of here, it is it's a very there's over 800 women actually that were juried into this exhibition. So um, it's a creation of Lenny Campello, who is the director of the Katzen Gallery at the American University in Washington, D.C., and he curated the show as well. So
Okay.
the central hub of this multi-venue exhibition is in Washington, D.C. at the American University Katzen Gallery.
Mm.
And so that exhibition is called Women of the DMV, a survey exhibition.
Mhm.
So the 18 satellite venues are having concurrent exhibitions of all female artists from their region.
That's
So
amazing.
the gallery venue that my work is included in is at the Melissa Studio Gallery, and that's in Front Royal, Virginia. And she has over 72 artists that were juried into the show from the Shenandoah Valley region of Northern Virginia. So it's the northwest corner of Virginia that borders Maryland and West Virginia. So, and the opening night, which was last Saturday, there were over 500 guests that came to that opening. It was
That's so
unreal.
cool. That's amazing. That is really cool. That's awesome. No, it sounds like it was a what a big success and what a wonderful thing, to do this, across all these different venues. So it becomes, something larger and
Mm-hmm.
more important and it reaches more people, right? Because,
Oh yeah, and
you
it
do it
just
all in one location. Well, only those who can get there, but like by being in more locations, then each location has its own circle of influence and circle of people, and so I think that's a great idea, and I'm so happy, so excited for you.
yeah, it was pretty amazing. And so the exhibition continues until December 7th, and during that time, Melissa Ichiuji has organized that she has on 5 consecutive Sundays, which the first one was yesterday, which I was part of that first group.
Okay.
5 artist talk panels. So yeah, she has that going on. She has a special film because there's in Front Royal there's a it's I want to use the word old time. I don't know if that's really correct. Like an old time movie theater from the community on the main street.
Okay.
Um, that goes back, I think, probably to like the 1940s, or
Wow.
it's all updated and everything. But she's brought in 8 different films, documentary films that are part that are highlighting famous female creators. Like the first one was Sally Mann, and some of them are Aretha Franklin is also featured in one of the documentaries. So that's also going on. And then also, and this is all in conjunction with the exhibition. And then Melissa also has organized a not every week but most of the week she is bringing in like a guest female author or just women that are creative, women that have creative related they're doing like workshops. And so she's really it's so fantastic to be part of just watching how what she's doing is just really drawing in a lot of people who are really benefiting from, she calls it, whether you're an artist or you're art curious. She's building this whole community of people that are just finding value
Hmm.
in the arts, and it is amazing to see this type of thing come to the community, because it really, there's a lot of artists that live out here,
Right.
um, but there hasn't been opportunities right here in our own backyard that we could show what we do and
Right.
find each other too. That's another thing. Like, I'm
Yeah, it becomes like a
discovering all
networking
these other
opportunity, right?
artists,
Yeah.
that live here. It's amazing.
Right, right. It becomes like a networking
Mm-hmm.
opportunity for you guys to connect and to see each other, to visit each other's locations,
Mm-hmm.
and venues and exhibitions. I think that's really fabulous. I want to say congratulations, Linda, on this exhibition. What a great opportunity to be part of that, or to this exhibition, and the importance that it has too in the region. So I want to say congratulations on behalf of all of us here in the Art Next Level
Thank you. Thank
program.
you.
We're super excited for you. And, as we start to wrap up this also conversation, you've been a wonderful member of the program. Tashina is also now in the program too, in the Art Next Level. Can you tell me a little bit, what has the Art Next Level helped you with or done for you in your art career since you joined?
the community actually is a huge part of what I really value. Again, it's like when you are able to to communicate with and to see what other artists are doing, it's like lighting that creative fire. And it feels really good to be able to, because I think most artists are kind of solitary, as a general rule. We're kind of solitary people,
Yeah.
as we focus so much on creating our work that at some point it is just wonderful to come out of the studio, so to speak, and to be able to start having conversations with other people who are also creating artwork. And we all have different perspectives and we have different goals, but ultimately we're connected by this thing we call creativity and the
Right.
arts. And then I also like, which is missing from a lot of other programs that I think Art Next Level gets so right, is the the professional, the marketing advice, the career advice, the videos and the challenges and opportunities to exhibit, in different things that you yourself are curating, or know about. And so it kind of like, again, pulls you out of your studio to like then have a way of showing your artwork and talking about your artwork. And I think it then kind of like another light bulb goes off, and you're like, in addition to the artwork I'm creating, having the ability to put it out there to share it, because that's part of the equation. There's you, the
Right.
artist, there's the artwork you create, but without an audience, without people to actually see it and appreciate it, then you miss out on the reason for it, outside of that you love making it. And so I really like the Art Next Level, that it really kind of like says, it lights up that other light bulb, and you like you say, my art is on a mission. Well,
Absolutely.
and one other thing that in the last month, I really it helps you clarify, for me at least, it helps me really clarify what is the mission of my art, and what is my mission as an artist. And I really have thought a lot about, for some artists, they gauge their success on how many sales that they have. And so in order to climb that ladder, then they really put a lot of focus on ways to sell their work, ways to market their work. And for me, because of the mission of my art and my focus on ecology and connection, that I've come to realize that the mission of my art is, it's on a feeling level, and it's on a connection level, and on a personal level. And that is kind of what I've been doing all along, but now I know I understand. It's like my priority is slower. It's kind of like slow cooked meal versus a fast cooked meal. I don't know if
Right.
that analogy makes any sense, but it's like almost every person who's ever purchased one of my artworks, that I have met them, and I, in some way or other, I know them. There has been a few times where when my work's been in a gallery and someone has purchased the work, and I didn't get to talk with them or meet them, or hear what, you know what about that artwork made them so inspired to buy it, how they connected with it. And that to me is like, that's my success, is kind of like slow and personal. And the majority of the art sales that I've had come from people who know me and or have seen my artwork and have connected with it. And sometimes it could be 5 or 6 years after they initially saw my artwork. And then I post something on Facebook, and
Mhm.
because they know me, and because they know
Right.
my artwork, and they know that they connect with it, then they inquire about purchasing it. And
Yeah.
so yeah, Art Next Level has really helped me think about, you have your challenges and your different like programs, and it's like, okay, so what direction am I going? And
Mhm.
it was kind of nice to have that time, that kind of that motivation to to really think about it. And so that kind of helps me shape how I'm going to show my work, and what venues I'm going to choose to show my work in, and kind of the pace of my marketing and the type of marketing that I do, which is
Right,
probably not the same as someone else would do
right.
who wants a lot of sales. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Oh, of course, and that's exactly what we try to do, right? It's not a cookie cutter program that everybody's the
Yeah.
same, but we are all different. We have artists from around the world, looking for different things. Some are also different stages. We have some artists who are just starting their career,
Hmm.
others who are mid-career, and others like you, right, that have had many exhibitions that are more ahead in their careers. And that's a wonderful thing because we all learn from each other. We all learn from everybody, and that's the beautiful thing about community. So we really appreciate you being part of it. We're super excited also for all your successes you have achieved in recent years, and the continued successes that are coming around the corner for you as well, and for your family, your daughters. And as we kind of wrap up today's chat, Linda, can you share with our friends the link to your website? Where can they see your art, and also where can they find you on Instagram or social media, so that they can go and visit you, to let you know that they heard this episode, or if they want to see your art, or somebody who may want to even collect your art?
Okay. So my website is www, of course, Linda L. Anderson fineart.com. And then on Instagram, it's artist Linda L. Anderson.
Excellent. Super easy to remember. Thank you for sharing. I'm gonna also put the link in the description of this podcast, so you guys can find it there as well. Linda, with this, I want to say thank you so much for your time. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for sharing your life, your art, and everything that you're doing right now, your most recent exhibitions. I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. And I want to
Oh,
invite all
thank
our
you.
friends. Yeah, of course. I want to invite all our friends. If you enjoy this podcast, please share it with others. Also that will make us really happy. To Linda and I will be so happy as well. Reach out to us. Let us know if you listen to the podcast. What were your favorite parts? What things that Linda said that really inspired you or touched you in some way? So thank you, Linda, for joining us. Hope you have an amazing rest of your week.
Oh, you as well. And I appreciate everything you do, Sergio. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, my friends, and we'll see you at the next level.
Check out our website at www.theartistnextlevel.com, where you will find our podcast library, learn about our upcoming webinars, find resources relevant to your career, and much more. Thanks for listening to today's podcast, and we'll see you at the next level.